we're not going to go through all this article because I've just done I've just done the video yesterday where we spent an hour talking about John Redwood and his very somewhat nonsensical ideas for growth about the UK. And of course, I've got the trust video to film after this, which I am not looking forward to. So we are not going to do the full article because I've already sort of pre-read it. And to be honest, it's the same argument. It is the same argument. I thought this might actually be a good uh, article to go over, but it's not. All the argument is oh, Texas charges no business rate and no sort of personal tax rate compared to sort of California. That's why all these businesses are going to sort of, California. Not out this way. All these businesses are going to Texas, and look how good Texas is really doing. Now, for those of you, certainly our American viewers will know full well, this idea that Texas is doing well is really not in the current conservative zeitgeist, because I don't know when this originally sort of first started. It might have been in the 80s, but conservatives did sort of the grand move. I think it was sort of at that time broadcast as you need to leave New York and instead you need to move to LA. And that, California is like the future of conservatism. And then I think it was very, very much in sort of the late 90s, early 2000s, this grand move started again. Oh, you need to, if you're a conservative, then you need to move to Texas. Texas is the place to come to. This is where you need to go to. And now, really in the past sort of 2 or 3 years, there is another grand move currently in place of, oh, Texas is terrible. What you really need to move now, if you're a conservative, you really need to move to Florida. Florida is the place where you can be a true conservative. You can, really experience the true conservative dream by moving to Florida. And of course, that is now what a lot of these conservative sort of brands and figures. Ben Shapiro is, of course, a big one who's moved. I think Crowder, Stephen Crowder has also moved. And I think there are a couple of others that are either in the process of moving or talking about moving to Florida, because again, it's the new mecca for conservatives. Now, of course, as we've said before, if you decide to basically charge no business rate, no business income tax, that means essentially you are not going to take in a large chunk of money, which you can then put into sort of public services or, running the state. And of course, Texas has an advantage which not a lot of other states have, which is its oil. It has massive oil revenues that it gets to take part of. And I think one of the things I remember in the past, basically, if Texas did not have these massive oil revenues, it would not be, shall we say, too good. But bear in mind, this idea of you charge like zero tax, zero business rates interest was tried in another state. It was tried, I believe, was it Kansas or was it Nebraska? It was one of those two, or it was another, might have been another one. But I think it might have been Kansas. You'll have to, someone will remind me. But this is what they decide to do as well. They go, oh wow, look at how well Texas is doing, not charging business rates. So we're going to do that. Well, look what happened. It almost bankrupted the state because they were not taking in that business revenue. They completely almost bankrupted the state, so they had to reverse that very quickly. And other sort of Republican states, when they've tried this, have seen a very similar sort of reaction. But you have sort of Florida, which is sort of very, very much a tourist mecca, which I think is part of the reason why they can sort of get away with it. From what I understand, I think that's the case. So that's how they've sort of managed to get away with it for at least the time being. Whether it will continue like that is sort of questionable, but it's interesting that this guy wrote this piece and then decided not to include that in reality many of like the senior conservative figures are advocating no, you need to move from Texas to Florida, partly because first of all the real estate prices are a lot lower. So a lot of people from California, not just conservatives but liberals and Democrats, are moving into these big cities in Texas and are very quickly becoming Democratic strongholds. Austin is a prime sort of example of somewhere that has sort of become um, purple, but is slowly more and more turning blue. And we were talking about this last time the elections came up, where it was Biden versus Trump. Where are the places you should be watching? And there was talks of about either Texas or Arizona being looking a lot more purple than they were red. Now, of course, eventually what happened was the shock that Georgia went blue out of nowhere, which no one was expecting. But I think has sent a lot of shivers down a lot of conservative spines in America of could that happen now finally to to Texas or even to Arizona next door. And they are sort of worried about that. So that's why there is this new flight now happening from sort of Texas over to Florida because of that fear. And there's a lot more going on here. Like I say, they talk about Elon Musk's new Snailbrook place, the place where he's now going to sort of make his employees live. Um, again, we've talked about this libertarian sort of fantasy dream before. It's happened, been tried before, and he ended in an absolute nightmare. Especially with a very angry llama called Hurricane. Like I say, I don't think this whole libertarian township plan that Elon Musk has sort of planned is going to sort of, should we say, maybe not end up in sort of its residents having to sort of beware of bears or an angry llama, but maybe other things will eventually cause this sort of to happen, and I wouldn't expect those stories to sort of get out, of course, but also it's kind of funny because they compare this to sort of Bourneville, the houses that were sort of built in the sort of the 1800s by, of course, the time the Cadbury's manufacturer. They're nothing like that at all because those workers, they got free healthcare. He would pay his workers to have healthcare. He paid for schools, hospitals, not just houses, but a ton of different stuff that his employees could have and would have access to. Musk is just building a house. They've been giving a swimming pool in Texas, and then there's a gym, and that's it. You might notice the big glaring obvious that if you worked for one of Elon Musk's companies and you were given a house in sort of Snailbrook and you had children, where do you send your kids? Because there's no schools within or at least within a decent distance of this new town. Um, so yeah, problems already abounding before this place has even really started to have people move in and sort of people live there. So, but of course, really, what the aim of this article is to promote the idea. Oh, you don't understand. We need to have absolutely 0% business interest rates. And here's the thing: if we were to do that, then you are saying the government is going to take in a lot less money, like a lot less money. So how then do you replace that money that is not coming in? This is the thing that these people who write this type of nonsense, like to bang on about. Oh, Britain should follow the example of Texas by having absolute, no personal. I think it's no personal tax rate and no business rate. Um, I think that's what they sort of really advocate for. Um, Let me have a look. So yeah, Texas has fewer planning laws than California and less onerous labor and environmental regulations. Certainly for Elon Musk, a big part of him moving to Texas from California is his massive dispute about the labor relations that he's got going on there. The fact that I think he got sued by California very recently for breaking a lot of those labor laws. It also has large amounts of undeveloped land, sort of close to big cities. And this is the big one. Critically, it doesn't charge corporation income tax or capital gains and income tax on individuals. Now, it can get away with that, as we said, because it's got those big oil reserves. That's where Texas gets a lot of its money from. And Florida, likewise, can do that at the moment because it has a lot of tourist income. But when we've seen other states try to copy the Texas model, hasn't worked out. And now, as this article wants to go, oh, we should be following Texas. We should be charging no corporate business income rate. We should have no income tax, no inheritance tax. Well, what do you replace that with? How do you intend to sort of run and sort of fund the NHS? And now you see once again, this is the sort of the big libertarian mindset that a lot of these Brexiteers want. This is what they want. This is why it is. The title of the article is "Why Brexit Britain's Perfect Role Model is Texas," because that's what they want. But in reality, once again, as we said, if any prime minister were to ever really stand on these ideas, they would not win. The whole idea that this is a sort of good idea, it's not. It's a complete and absolutely libertarian pipe dream. Now, of course, it attracts businesses because, yeah, of course, they're going to do that. Oh, we have to pay no business income tax rate. Excellent. We'll move there. We'll save us, a couple of million a year. And that's why they're doing it, just to save that extra cost of money. Not because it's better for them business wise, it just saves them a couple of million that they don't have to pay in tax. That's why they're really doing it. It's not to be a big benefit to their business, not to be a big benefit to the workers. After all, Texas has lower labor regulations. So once again, beware these people who proclaim and write nonsense like this without really telling you what's going on beneath the surface of Texas, what it's really like to sort of work in there. The fact that they have next to no labor protections. And the other thing, of course, about Texas very recently that happened, Texas's entire national grid was sold off because, oh, we can't have anything sort of public owned in Texas. And yet, look what happened very recently, where the entire state almost froze because their infrastructure was privately owned. They had not invested in the basic power systems, and when there was this big freeze, all those sort of transmitters, the system that sort of moves the power around the state, shut down, and hundreds of thousands of people nearly froze to death, to a point where they had to have like declare a public emergency. And that's what Brexit Britain should be like. Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. You can keep Texas over there. We don't need to clone it. Thank you very much. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a motivation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, we'll see you all next time.